Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L here to talk about Mahouka episode 9, and don't mind the very bright background. It is a very bright day finally here in good old Canada. Anyway, yeah, episode 9. So for episode 9, as you can see, I have a relatively negative comment there on the video title, and the reason I have that comment is because that is kind of what I'm feeling for one particular portion of the episode. And it's kind of unfortunate, but I'm gonna berate it aggressively once we get there. But before that, before we go into just that whole examination of stupidity, I do want to point out what I thought were the top moments for the episode, because it's a top moment video. So for this one, here are my top moments. One, Kyoko's grandpa learning of the parasites. Well, this is a top moment because this is one of those people that if they find out information, it's like, well, shit, this guy could change the status quo. So him noting that this is a new capability, kind of ominous. My next top moment was getting a Tatsuya explanation for the resonance from the last episode. I mean, when I look at it makes sense to me. Honoka's feelings are kind of linked to those little crystals she had on her hair, and that's causing a link with the creature that was created from her psyche. Makes sense to me. I'm all for seeing how this develops for the future. My next top moment was the three kids fighting and Erika using her clout against the phony police officers. Even if they lost, this was really cool. It was actually cool to see Mikihiko make such a big difference in that fight. He took down like what, 2 guys in that fight. It was really neat, and of course, anytime that you get to see the side characters do stuff, that's always a good time. My next thought moment was Balance working with the Yotsuba. This was just interesting because we're seeing the payoff for Balance getting like absolutely shafted by the Yotsuba in the previous episodes. And it was cool because it told us that Lena was going to be in the episode, so I was very excited. Moving on, we had Miumi and Tatsuya talking about the parasites that her family was probably collected to. So I like that because I like Miumi, and it was just cool to see how much she doesn't know. It was a nice little bit of world building. Really appreciated that. Moving on, we find out Lena executed the parasites. You know, interesting return for Lena, although I have more to say about Lena because of the things that Tatsuya says about her, but her actually executing the parasites, that was actually neat because she was actually acting like a soldier that we're being told that she is. Moving on, we find out about the sages, and we find out that Raymond is a sage. So this was a pretty big moment for me, because I found this to be the coolest part of the episode, just learning how this thing worked. Raymond, I was really sketchy about him because he has that ominous shot in the opening. But actually seeing that he seems kind of friendly here makes me feel good. But again, because he has that ominous shot, I'm thinking, well, Raymond really could just be a dick, and he's just hiding it really well. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm going to assume that everyone who's part of the Sages is just a giant dick. I think that's a safer way to go about it. But moving on from that, we also find out that the Sages system is pretty much just super Big Brother. So that's an interesting concept. I was going to compare it to Psycho-Pass 3 because Psycho-Pass 3 had like a giant system that was also a backdoor, that selected people, and then people can manipulate stuff or access information through it. But Psycho-Pass 3 comes after Mahouka in terms of creation. So Mahouka most likely has that before Psycho-Pass 3. But still, I understand the concept. It's a concept I've seen before. It's easy to understand. Just assume there's a super Big Brother. Well, first, assume a Big Brother system, then just assume there's a super Big Brother system with a robust AI that's able to select people. I think that makes sense. Now, that does make things a little bit more interesting because it does lend more to that idea that the Sages are not an organized group, and actually finding out that they are randomly selected is a neat little detail. And it's also kind of funny that they can be found out because of search history. Very interesting. And then finally, my last big top moment was Tatsuya smiling at the magic comment that Raymond says about magic leading to the way of the future for magicians or for humans or whatever. I found that good because Tatsuya smiles. Whenever Tatsuya smiles, it's like, oh, good. You find commonality there, Tatsuya. You really do believe in magic, kind of thing. Anyway, one more thing I want to say about that final one. You know, I never really care about the whole anti-magician movement. I don't know, like, it always seemed like a superfluous plot point, and I know that you have, like, the motivations of China saying, like, oh yeah, we're gonna stop magic development, then we're gonna be the best, and it's like, yo, honestly, when has anyone ever known any military to listen to the public when it comes to their weapons? Look, man, if the public gets their way and they bring down magicians, all it means is that the military is going to be a little bit sneakier with the resources they employ, man. Like, in the real world, everyone has nukes. Everyone just does it, even though we all agree nukes are pretty terrible to have because they can cause wide destruction. You know, it's just the human rights or whatever that plot point is always just seems so unimportant. And mind you, like, the story will try to make it work, but I really feel like, especially for this season, you can do away with a good chunk of the rhetoric about the fights in the background, and I don't think much changes. Like, this is just one of those world building details that is there for the setting, but at the end of the day, it doesn't feel all that impactful. I mean, replace China. If you would say China's motivation is because they want to undermine magicians, you know, you can replace that motivation with anything else to justify them attacking Japan. There's a lot of reasons why China would want to attack Japan in general. There's a lot of reasons why people from China would want to attack Japan in general or weaken anything. Yeah, no, it's always it's an interesting world building detail, but again, I don't think it has much influence on the actual immediate situations that the kids have. Now, mind you, this is one of those things that's probably better in the future. And it builds up towards it, but you know, it's just an excuse for why Tatsuya's getting into trouble, right? That's all it is. It's an excuse for problems to be occurring. Anyway, I just wanted to add that. Now we're going to go into the breakdown of this episode. So the reason that this is going to be a little bit more critical is because Tatsuya has established for us, the viewers, what exactly his standards for failure are. And you guys remember this, because I remember this. It was like episode 5. Let me find the exact words here. The end result is that we barely managed not to lose anything. What a disgrace. So, Tatsuya calls failure when they barely win a defensive battle. And then in this episode, Tatsuya has the brilliant idea to back away from a combat scene because a girl's tights are slightly torn. And then later on, he has the ability to say, we can't do anything about them now that they got away, and be cool about that. And it's like, Tatsuya, you're stupid. Every single one of Tatsuya's failures, he deserves. Even the ones that the writers don't want us to think are failures. Because when I'm looking at this situation, what Tatsuya did to Erika and them, he didn't tell them that they were being surveilled. Tatsuya knows he's being surveilled. He didn't tell them that just previously, Honoka had gone out of her way to blind a couple people that were following them. Tatsuya knew that there were multiple forces involved in this one location, and then he chooses to back away and leave the other 3 without any kind of support. That's his fault. When it ultimately comes down to the final thing, and it turns out that the things have been killed because other parties are moving. I know, maybe Tatsuya didn't expect other parties to be moving, but he's a military guy. He should be better. But yeah, no. From the moment that he found out that those creatures were taken, given what he said about what is a disgrace in episode 5, given what he said about his standards for failure, in that moment he should have known he messed up. But of course, the writing doesn't want that to, it doesn't want us to frame it that way. But then, let's go back to that whole scene. What I ultimately see here in that scene, when you have Mikihiko telling Tatsuya that he should probably go home, I see that as the most contrived reason that anyone could ever come up with to justify why the plot has to get difficult. Like, really think about that. Tatsuya is the kind of person that is willing to bring a random girl into a combat situation, is willing to let her get in trouble such that he has to rely on a robot to defend her, but then he is not willing to let her just wait a couple of minutes with some torn tights. Now mind you, in the novel, it is likely that it is a little bit more justified, but that still doesn't take away from the anime just seeming really stupid. You know, when I was looking at that scene of just showing the girls with torn tights, it's like one of them is a robot, so I don't know what we care about modesty, and then the other one just got out of a combat situation. Again, it's a stupid scene. This is another situation where Tatsuya, we're supposed to believe that he's this super hardcore military guy, but then the writing lets him down. If you're being followed or you're being surveilled such that you have to use your friend to cause a distraction, it is not reasonable to just leave a situation because the girl you just put into a combat situation has a few torn tights. That is ridiculous. Again, it reads to me like the writer needed an excuse to justify the plot getting difficult. And if that is the case, the writer, whether it be the anime's writer or the original writer, is 100% worthy of criticism for doing such stupid maneuvers. And when Tatsuya says that him almost surviving with his friends is a disgrace, this is an uber mega disgrace by the same standards. I think that would be fair to say. Moving on. Erica in the previous episode, and now this is more towards the anime being stupid. Erica has a big moment where she opens up the door and there's like 8 guys like just kneeling in front of her place, and it's like, where are those 8 guys now? You know, it was really cool to see Erica throwing around her clout because that was something that uniquely she could do. But where's her backup? Everyone knew where they had to go, so why was no one there? I mean, Tatsuya already screwed her over by leaving her to deal with Section 3 when he knew people were following him. But where was that? It's how insane is it to bring up the fact that Erica had people ready to go and then not have Erica use them in the moment when she should have been using them? That's a waste. That's wasted time. That's stupid. I did, however, like how the kids like had to kind of squirm in front of Tatsuya. But yeah, no. When I look at those first couple of moments, what I'm really just thinking is Tatsuya had no reason to leave there, and the reason they gave us was insanely stupid. Tatsuya should have been more responsible in the same way that he should have been more responsible when the Parasite initially escaped back when they were at school. Not doing a perimeter check, stupid. And in this case, not being more careful, exceedingly stupid. I don't believe that Tatsuya is a military professional the way the writer wants me to believe, because the writer clearly doesn't know how someone in the military thinks. And now, speaking of things with the military, you know, we go and we look at Lena. And this is a really tough spot for me because I agree with Tatsuya. I don't think that Lena's cut out for being someone in the military. But you know what? This is tough because when I'm seeing the last little bit of the episode and Tatsuya talking about how assassinations are lonely and cheerless work and how it will crush her heart little by little, you know, I agree. I don't think Lena has the mentality for it, but now I got a question like, how often has Lena done this before? And to me, it sounds like what the writer is doing is they're trying to set up Lena to be this damsel in distress. Because especially when it's talking about crushing her heart more a little by little, man, I gotta say, for a guy without emotions, or that can't feel his emotions all that well, Tatsuya has a very developed emotional intelligence when it's important. I mean, like when it comes to Honoka, his emotional intelligence, he doesn't talk about enough for me to make a judgment. But hey, he's talking about, oh, it's going to crush her heart little by little. He has such a good understanding of how horrible things affect people. It's really interesting how they choose to demonstrate Tatsuya's emotional intelligence. But going back to Lena here, with Lena, I think they're trying to turn Lena into a damsel in distress so that Tatsuya can save her and so that she can be part of the main harem or pseudo harem or whatever. And I agree with Tatsuya that she's not set up for it, but I think the anime or the writing is trying too hard to justify it. Because from my perspective, it's like, okay, Lena's in the military. I assume they have psych evals. The military is the kind of place in the US that you can't get in without a certain degree of IQ. I'm assuming that they have psych evals. I'm assuming that they're trying to make sure that this girl's okay. Now, mind you, I still think that the writing is trying to say that the Americans are incompetent, because at the end of the day, you have an American working with Japanese superiority. So, you know, I still think that they're trying to say that they're incompetent. But when it comes to Lena, if Lena is a captain or a leader of this their best military group, chances are Lena's executed many people before. Now, mind you, Lena has shown that she has a little bit of trauma about killing that one guy at the beginning of the anime. But here's where the anime's previous rushing of Lena just destroys the poor girl. From my perspective, if you want to show that Lena's mentality is breaking, why did you not show how she reacted to her friend dying? The friend that she was excited to see. Why did you not show how she internalized that? Because honestly, I have no reason to believe that Lena's having a hard time aside from my own inferences of Lena's characters. And the reason I would say that is because I'm being told that this woman is really good at her job. I'm being told that she's competent enough that she's a leader according to the Americans. If she's the leader of a covert unit that's hiding her face, she's probably killed a lot of different people before this. So why is it now suddenly that her heart is breaking? Now mind you, again, Tatsuya is trying to qualify, right? What Tatsuya does in this episode, he tries to draw a line between military killings, like killings in a combat field, and assassinations of people that can't fight back. That's where he's drawing the line to like try and elevate that Lena is a victim. Because you have to draw that line there. You have to make the distinction between assassinations and military work, because if you don't make that distinction, the whole premise falls apart. But that's where the problem is. By the same logic that Tatsuya thinks the assassination is going to break her heart, I'm saying Lena shouldn't have ever been a captain in the first place, because she's shown that she's just not good at this. Or she's shown that she has the judgment of a high schooler. I think this episode was concentrated. I think it was better paced than the previous episodes. But I think the rhetoric within the episode is stupid. If we're looking at if we're looking at the general pattern, we keep getting a pattern of Tatsuya being stupid. And so again, when I see Tatsuya naked in the shower, I'm like, yeah, you know, you kind of deserve this one. This is your fault for being stupid. I hope you tell yourself that you're a disgrace. I really want to hear you like say this 10 times over, because if you want to set up something, if he wants to set up a victory as a disgrace, I really want to hear him like really rack himself over this one. And mind you, I really feel for Tatsuya there, because it's good that he showed the sadness. Although, you know, my question is he feeling sad for Lena? I don't think so, because of the timing of the situation. I think he's feeling sad for the Parasites, because he understands how the Parasites are. And he did say in the previous episodes that he found commonality with them. That one little line where he talked about how their wishes are inherited from whatever, you know, host they got. But yeah, no, man, because Tatsuya had the goal to like call something a failure, I really want to see him really destroy himself. But again, the writing's not going to let him do it, because the writing needs certain things to happen. If we were to talk about the problems for season 2 of Mahouka, I sincerely think it's Tatsuya being stupid when he really shouldn't be, Lena's characterization and like the breaking of Lena's character so that she can be saved, and just the general pacing issues from the early parts. Those are the 3 parts that were still those are the 3 things that this season seems to be struggling with. Anyway, everyone, let me know what you thought down below. Let me know how harsh you are being on the series, or if, you know, if you're gonna forgive it. Like, at the end of the day, you know, criticisms for a review, they only really matter for people that don't like a series, or that don't know if they're gonna like a series. When we're talking about people that are watching season 2 and are giving the anime a shot, you know, there's a lot of things you're gonna forgive. For me, I enjoy talking about the weaknesses, and in this particular case, I like, again, just pulling out because of torn tights. That's really contrived. Especially when this man brought them into a combat situation. Do you understand, like, the disconnect there? You're willing to get them in danger, but God forbid they get clothing damage. God forbid that they get trauma from having to face people that want to potentially kill them. Nah, it's the clothing damage. No, see, like, that's silly. That's ridiculous. But yeah, no. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you enjoyed about the episode and what you didn't. And let me know if there's any things that you actually kind of wished you had more of in the episode. Anyway, everyone, till next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.